Ladies and gentlemen, rejection is not the end, it's the beginning. I was rejected by Harvard 10 times, even KFC turned me down. But I remembered, God said, when you are weak, then you are strong. Rejection taught me resilience. Einstein said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Success is never handed to you. It's built from failure. Believe in your dream even when the world laughs. Rejection is just life's way of asking, how bad do you want it? Rejection is the foundation of resilience. This truth is often misunderstood, feared, and avoided, but in reality, rejection is a powerful force that shapes our inner strength. When we face rejection, whether it's from a job application, a business pitch, a relationship, or a dream we've pursued, it stings. It feels personal, it challenges our worth, but that very challenge is where the growth begins. When we are accepted all the time, when things go smoothly, when every door opens without resistance, we rarely stop to think, learn, or grow. Comfort rarely breeds greatness. But rejection, on the other hand, forces us to confront our weaknesses. It holds up a mirror and says, you are not there yet, but you could be. And that simple realization that you could be unlocks resilience. Because once you see that failure doesn't kill you, you become more willing to take risks. You become more open to learning. You become more determined to keep going. Many people fear rejection because they believe it defines their value. But rejection does not define who you are. It reveals what you are willing to fight for. It's the pressure that creates diamonds, the storm that strengthens the roots of the tree. Without rejection, we would never know the taste of persistence. We would never discover how deep our hunger really goes. Rejection strips away the illusions and tests your belief in yourself. It asks, do you really want this? And if the answer is yes, then you get up again, stronger, smarter, and more prepared than before. Resilience is not a natural trait that some are born with. It is earned, it is forged through repeated disappointment, through the doors that closed, the people who doubted you, and the chances you lost. Each rejection becomes a lesson. Each lesson becomes a tool, and with enough tools, you start to build. One brick at a time, you construct something powerful. Your mindset, that mindset becomes your greatest asset. It tells you that failure is feedback. It tells you that success is not about being perfect, but about being persistent. Think about the stories we admire most. They're never about someone who had it easy. They're about people who faced rejection after rejection, but never gave up. They kept showing up, kept trying, kept believing. Their resilience didn't come from success. It came from being told no 100 times and still saying yes to themselves. Rejection is not the enemy. It's a necessary part of the journey. It tests our character. It builds endurance. It teaches humility. It separates the interested from the committed. In the face of rejection, most people retreat. They give up, change paths, lower their expectations. But those who use rejection as fuel, they rise. They look at the closed door and say, I will find another way. That mindset is the birthplace of innovation, of leadership, of legacy. Resilient people are not the ones who were never hurt. They're the ones who refuse to stay hurt. They transform pain into power. They turn setbacks into setups. Rejection makes your success story credible. Without it, the world won't respect your climb. When people hear that you were rejected 20 times before landing your first deal, it changes how they see your achievements. It adds depth. It adds proof. It says you earned it. It wasn't luck. It was resilience. And resilience comes from showing up even after the door slams in your face. Again and again. You don't build a billion-dollar empire by avoiding rejection. You build it by walking through it. You learn from it, you adapt, you push forward with more clarity, more hunger, more fire. Every no becomes a step toward the yes that changes your life. Every failure becomes a chapter in the story that will one day inspire others. People often admire the results, but forget the rejections behind them. But those rejections were the training ground. They were the reason the dream became real. Resilience is not just about endurance. It's about attitude. It's about how you interpret the rejection. Do you see it as a sign to quit? Or do you see it as a challenge to grow? Your answer determines your future. Those who choose to grow, who embrace rejection as part of the process, eventually rise above those who fear it, because they've trained themselves to keep going, no matter how many times they fall. In business, in life, in every pursuit worth chasing, rejection is inevitable. But it's not final, it's feedback. It's redirection. Sometimes rejection protects you from paths that weren't meant for you. Sometimes it redirects you to something greater, but only if you stay resilient. Only if you don't give up when things get tough. The dream doesn't come easy for anyone, but for those who are resilient, the dream becomes inevitable. Rejection becomes the fire that hardens your spirit, sharpens your vision, and strengthens your purpose. Resilient people understand that rejection is temporary, but giving up makes failure permanent. They keep moving, knowing that one day the no will turn into a yes. And when that yes comes, it won't just be a win, it'll be a victory built on every moment they were told no. Faith transforms weakness into strength. This idea may seem contradictory at first glance, because weakness is often viewed as something to be ashamed of, something to hide or avoid. In a world that rewards power, success, and confidence, admitting weakness feels like surrender. But the truth is, when you acknowledge your weakness and place it in the hands of something greater than yourself, faith begins to work. It's not about pretending to be strong, but about understanding where true strength comes from. There is a moment in every person's journey when they come face to face with limitations. It might be a lack of skill, a lack of money, a lack of support, or even a lack of hope. These moments are defining because they reveal the edge of human effort. When you've done all you can and still fall short, you begin to realize that sheer willpower isn't always enough. That's when faith enters. Faith is not blind belief. It's trust. It's the decision to believe that your current condition is not your final destination. It's the strength to stand when everything inside you says collapse. Faith is not passive. It's active. It's the fuel that keeps you going when logic says stop. It's the whisper that says keep moving when your body and mind scream to quit. When you are weak, faith becomes the bridge between your failure and your future. It doesn't deny your weakness, it redefines it. What looks like a setback becomes preparation. What feels like brokenness becomes breakthrough. When you believe that your weakness has purpose, it no longer controls you. Instead, it empowers you. There's something powerful about the phrase. God said, when you are weak, then you are strong. It turns the world's wisdom upside down. It suggests that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of belief in the middle of it. When you're strong on your own, you may rely on ego, talent, or control. But when you're weak and still choose to move forward, it's no longer about you. It's about the force sustaining you. That is where true strength is born. In business, life, and leadership, weakness is unavoidable. Every visionary, every trailblazer, every builder has been brought to their knees by something they couldn't control. But those who rise again do so because they discovered faith in the ashes. They found that weakness is not a dead end. It's an invitation to dig deeper, to trust higher, to believe in more than what they can see or touch. Faith turns broken plans into better outcomes. It transforms small beginnings into lasting impact. It takes your lowest point and uses it as the launch pad for your greatest chapter. Many people think faith means everything will go smoothly, but that's not faith. That's fantasy. Faith means you move forward even when everything goes wrong. It means trusting the process even when you don't understand the purpose. That trust strengthens you in ways comfort never could. When you face difficulty and still choose to believe, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken. That is the power of weakness transformed. You become unbreakable not because you never fall, but because you learn how to rise. Faith allows you to see weakness not as a flaw, but as a feature. It humbles you. It connects you with others. It reminds you that you're not meant to carry everything alone. It opens you up to receive help, wisdom, correction, and strength from beyond yourself. And in that space, you grow, you mature, you lead with empathy, you innovate with courage, you speak with authenticity. Weakness becomes your teacher, and faith becomes your guide. The world honors strong people, but it remembers those who turn their weakness into wisdom. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with transparency. When you admit your weakness and still move forward, you give others permission to do the same. You lead not by showing how perfect you are, but by revealing how resilient you've become. Faith is the engine behind that resilience. It pushes you to go one more round. It reminds you why you started. It lifts your head when the weight is too heavy. The most iconic achievements in history were not born out of ease. They were born out of struggle. Weakness was part of the equation. But somewhere in the middle of the pain was a voice that said, don't quit. That voice is faith. It doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always feel logical, but it gives strength that can't be explained. It gives you the courage to try again, to believe again, to dream again. And eventually, it takes your story of weakness and transforms it into a message of power. When you rely only on your strength, your limit is human ability. But when you rely on faith, you tap into something unlimited. Weakness becomes an entry point, not a barrier. You begin to see challenges differently. You stop running from discomfort and start growing through it. You stop hiding your fears and start facing them. You stop trying to control everything and start trusting that even your failures have value. That shift changes your mindset, your attitude, and ultimately, your life people may look at your journey and see the wins, the breakthroughs, the results, but they won't see the nights you cried, the moments you doubted, the times you felt completely unqualified. But you'll know, and you'll also know that in every one of those moments, faith carried you. Faith lifted you when strength failed. Faith helped you rise when everything inside you felt crushed. That is how weakness becomes strength, not because you overcame it alone, but because you didn't give up in it. You believed there was more, and that belief gave you the power to go further than you imagined. This is the secret of resilience. It's not just toughness. It's not just discipline. It's the quiet, relentless power of faith working inside weakness. It's the voice that says, even this has purpose. It's the force that keeps building even when the blueprint is unclear. Faith transforms your weakness not by erasing it, but by using it. Every scar becomes a symbol of strength. Every failure becomes a foundation. Every limitation becomes a lesson that builds character, wisdom, and depth. And that depth is what fuels greatness. Adversity reveals hidden opportunities. It is in the most difficult moments that clarity often arrives. When everything is going well, we tend to move on autopilot, following routines and patterns that feel safe. We don't question much. We don't innovate. We rarely take bold risks. But when adversity strikes, when plans fail, when relationships crumble, when health deteriorates, when the business crashes, we are forced to stop and reassess. That disruption, though painful, becomes the catalyst for transformation. Adversity pushes us out of comfort. It breaks down the illusion that we are in control of everything. It humbles us, and in that humility, new vision is born. Challenges force us to think differently. They ignite creativity because survival demands innovation. When you're pressed on all sides, you begin to see paths that were invisible before. You ask better questions. You start listening more. You let go of what wasn't working, and you become willing to explore what might. Every adversity carries within it the seeds of a lesson, a solution, or a new direction. But you have to look beyond the pain. Pain is real, but so is purpose. Most people focus on the loss, the discomfort, the confusion. But those who rise through adversity choose to focus on what can be gained. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is the opportunity hiding inside this obstacle? That shift in thinking doesn't make the adversity disappear, but it changes your response. And your response determines your future. History is full of individuals who found their greatness on the other side of adversity. Entrepreneurs who were fired before starting iconic companies. Artists who were rejected for years before changing the world with their vision. Leaders who failed in their first attempts but eventually shaped nations. In every story of impact, there is a chapter of adversity. And in that chapter lies the turning point, the moment where everything looked like it was falling apart, but was actually falling into place. Adversity strips away what is unnecessary. It reveals who you really are. It shows you your true priorities, your true motivations, your real strengths, and your areas of weakness. When pressure is applied, the fake falls away and the real rises. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You face the truth, and that truth makes you sharper. You start to build from a place of authenticity. You discover gifts you didn't know you had. You realize that you are capable of more than you imagine. Opportunities often come disguised as problems. What looks like a dead end might be a detour toward your destiny. The business that failed could lead to the invention that changes lives. The job you lost might push you to pursue your passion. The betrayal you experienced could be the reason you finally learned to trust yourself. But none of these things are visible at first. They only reveal themselves if you stay in the process. If you keep showing up, if you refuse to be defined by the setback. Adversity builds resilience, but it also unlocks resourcefulness. It makes you ask, what can I do with what I have? It forces you to stretch, to adapt, to pivot. In that stretch, you grow. In that pivot, you evolve. The skills you develop during adversity often become your competitive advantage. The wisdom you gain becomes your compass. The grit you build becomes your fuel. And suddenly, you're no longer the same person who entered the storm. You've leveled up. Most people wait for perfect conditions before they move. But adversity teaches you that progress is possible even in imperfection. You stop waiting for the right time and start creating it. You stop making excuses and start making moves. The constraints become your canvas. The limits become your launch pad, and the adversity that was meant to break you becomes the very thing that builds you. This is not theory. This is experience over and over again in every arena of life. When you face adversity, people are watching. Some want to see you fall, others silently hope you rise. But the most important person watching is you. Adversity gives you the chance to prove to yourself that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are a creator of outcomes. You have the power to turn pain into purpose. But only if you lean in. Only if you refuse to quit. Only if you see the adversity not as a wall, but as a mirror reflecting who you're becoming. There is no strength without struggle, no triumph without trials. The fire that tests you also purifies you. It burns off doubt. It melts fear. It forges courage. The adversity you face today is training you for the opportunity you haven't yet seen. Sometimes you're being prepared for something you didn't ask for, but deeply need. That preparation happens in the dark, when no one is applauding, when the results are invisible, when the future is uncertain. But that is when the greatest seeds are planted. Adversity challenges your faith, but it also deepens it. It makes you ask, do I really believe what I say I believe? It stretches your character. It builds patience. It teaches you to trust the process even when you can't predict the outcome. You become more grounded, more grateful, more focused. Adversity has a way of cutting through the noise and reminding you what truly matters. It aligns your inner world so you can take bold action in the outer world. The opportunities that come through adversity are not always material. Sometimes the opportunity is emotional growth, mental toughness, deeper wisdom, or restored clarity. Sometimes the breakthrough isn't external, it's internal. A new mindset, a renewed heart, a bigger vision. And once that internal shift happens, the external results eventually follow. Adversity forces you to dig into places you didn't know existed, and what you find there becomes the foundation for the next level of your life. There is a version of you that only adversity can unlock. That version is more powerful, more focused, more capable than the current one. But to meet that version, you must walk through the fire. You must embrace the discomfort. You must keep moving even when you want to stop. Every challenge is an invitation. Every crisis is a classroom. Every setback is a setup. If you can shift your perspective, you'll stop running from adversity and start extracting the value hidden inside it. True success requires unwavering belief. It does not begin with talent, resources, or connections. It begins with the ability to believe when there is no evidence, no support, and no guarantee. This kind of belief is not surface-level optimism. It is a deep, internal conviction that you are meant for something greater, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. It is the foundation on which everything lasting is built. Without it, every obstacle becomes a reason to quit. With it, every obstacle becomes a reason to fight harder. Unwavering belief is the force that allows ordinary people to do extraordinary things. It's what keeps you going when the plan falls apart. It's what gives you the courage to start over when everything crumbles. It's the invisible strength that rises up inside you when doubt, fear, and failure surround you. Most people have belief when things are going well. They believe in their dream when the doors open, when the money flows, when the applause is loud. But true belief is tested in silence. It's proven in the dark when there's no applause, no money, no open doors, only vision, only fire. This belief is not about arrogance. It's about knowing who you are and what you're called to do. It's about standing in the face of rejection and saying, I still believe. It's about hearing no after no and deciding that your yes is still valid. It's about believing in yourself so fiercely that the opinions of others lose their power. Unwavering belief turns the impossible into the inevitable. It gives you the endurance to keep walking when the road is long, when the results are slow, and when the pressure is high. Success is not handed to anyone. It's carved out of resistance, sacrifice, and persistence. And those who carve it out are the ones who never stop believing. They may have had doubts. they may have felt fear, but their belief was stronger than their fear. Their vision was louder than their excuses. They refused to shrink. They refused to settle. They refused to let their current situation define their future. That refusal is what separates those who try from those who triumph. Unwavering belief requires discipline. It's not an emotion. It's a choice. Every day you choose to believe. When you wake up tired, you choose to believe. When you lose money, you choose to believe. When people betray you, when the results don't come, when the pressure mounts, you choose to believe. That choice builds mental muscle. It builds emotional endurance. It creates an inner environment that can withstand outer storms. The most successful people in any field are not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who chose belief again and again. The journey to success is filled with moments that make you question everything. There will be setbacks that feel final. There will be seasons of waiting, of silence, of wondering if it's all worth it. But belief doesn't require certainty. It only requires commitment. You don't have to know how everything will work out. You just have to believe that it will. That belief becomes the compass. It directs your focus. It energizes your actions. It anchors your heart. There will be voices telling you to quit. Voices in your mind. Voices from your past. Voices from people who don't see what you see. But unwavering belief gives you the power to rise above those voices. It helps you stay rooted in your purpose. It reminds you that you don't need everyone to understand. You just need to keep building. Many people fail not because they lack skill, but because they lost belief. They allowed the struggle to silence their faith. They allowed temporary defeat to become permanent surrender. When you believe, you move differently. You speak with authority. You act with confidence. You persist with passion. That energy is magnetic. It draws people to your mission. It opens doors that were once closed. It turns resistance into resilience. Even when the circumstances are against you, belief creates momentum. You begin to attract resources, support, and breakthroughs. Not because you waited for them, but because you walked in belief long before they appeared. Belief is the soil in which vision grows. Without it, dreams die before they take root. But when you nurture belief, you water your future. You give it room to breathe. You give it time to develop. Most success is delayed, not denied. But those who stop believing never live to see the delay end. They give up in the middle. They surrender halfway. Unwavering belief is what keeps you in the game long enough for the tide to turn. You can't fake belief. It's either in you or it's not. And the only way to build it is to decide daily that your dream is non-negotiable, that your calling is worth the cost, that your destiny is bigger than your doubt. This belief does not mean you won't feel fear. It means you move anyway. It does not mean you won't face setbacks. It means you rise again. It does not mean you have all the answers. It means you trust that the answers will come as you move forward. True belief shifts your identity. You stop acting like someone trying to succeed, and you start living like someone who already is. You carry yourself differently. You plan differently. You prepare differently. You stop shrinking to fit in and start expanding to break through. You stop chasing validation and start creating value. That shift changes everything. It rewires your mind. It reshapes your world. It multiplies your impact. When you believe, you invest in yourself. You study, you train, you grow. You don't wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. You don't look for guarantees. You create results. You stop talking about what you want and you start becoming who you need to be. Belief gives you permission to take risks. It gives you courage to say no to distractions. It gives you clarity to focus on what matters. And the more you believe, the more you become. Every person who made history began with belief. Every breakthrough, every invention, every revolution started as an idea fueled by conviction. That's the real power behind success. Not just talent, not just opportunity, but unwavering belief that what you carry inside of you is worth bringing into the world. That belief becomes your fire. That fire becomes your drive. That drive becomes your story.